I look so pallid and dead.
It's called
Don't
sunlight.
shut up. Shut up. There's sunlight right there. It just Guys, have you ever heard the story of Narcissus who turned into a plant?
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Unresolved Textual Tension. It's me, your host, Maria, and with me, my ruggedly handsome co-host, William.
Rugged, handsome, extra today. That's me. And what book are we doing today?
We are reading
Little Thieves by
Margaret Owen. Shauna texted it or
I was gonna say
sent it to me on Discord earlier. I was
Shauna,
trying to find
coming
it
in clutch.
Even before the thing started. So yeah, it's called Little Thieves by Margaret Owens, and it is a sort of retelling of The Goose Girl. And I have super complex feelings about this book, guys. Like,
yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one to talk about. So before we start, I don't know the story of the Goose Girl, and I don't think you really need to for this book, but just to lay that out there, I don't remember the story at all. There's no Disney movie about it, so I really don't remember at all. But yeah, okay, so I sort of really hate this book, but it's also been but it is also not a terrible book, and it's kind of been illuminating as to how I feel like certain problems happen, if that kind of makes sense, and that it's made me have to go why doesn't this thing work? Because this book does try to do some things that I often say books should do, but just can't. What were your feelings on it?
So I had a huge issue. So first off, because we had a lot of differing opinions on our Discord, and I think if you
I went back through the comments actually yesterday to look through all of them. Sup, Lindbergh. I liked Lindbergh's comments.
I know you did. When I was looking through them as well, I was like, Will is gonna vibe with Lindbergh's
Lindbergh
comments.
and me are on the same plane on this.
So the thing is, if you like certain character types and you bond to a certain character type, versus if you don't like a certain character type and don't bond with a certain character type, this book is going to, for the first 2/3, be really good or really frustrating. For me, what really threw me was compared to how much I wasn't enjoying the first 2/3. And then I really enjoyed the last third. Like, I was having a good time. And part of it was because there was so much stuff happening. The main character had less time to think about stuff and navel gaze, and there was less talking to this book does the Fleabag thing where the the main character is talking to the audience and breaking the fourth wall a bit, which I don't love for this book. And I will argue this book would have worked significantly better had it been written in third person, because the people who like the main character Vanya's personality type, which is super jaded. Okay.
If you like shitty characters, you'll love her for the first half.
Okay. She's super jaded. She's got she's kind of hardened. She's a bit bitchy. She's working for herself. She puts herself first in life, and it takes way too long for you to realize why and for you to start feeling sympathetic towards her, for me. But if you're into that character type, you're going to enjoy the first half. But I argue you could have enjoyed it liking that character type in third person as much as you would in first person. But if you are me or Will, who this is not a character we immediately like, I liked her so much more when she was stumbling and dumb because she didn't know how to talk to Emmerich. You know, I liked her so much when she didn't know what the fuck she was doing, because that I vibe with, and that took way too long to happen. But if this is written in third person, so you don't know what the character is thinking, and you don't hear the character telling themselves how smart they are, then what she does can just be kind of enigmatic and look cool and feel much more interesting for people like me, where we don't necessarily bond.
Okay, all right. Okay, here's what you gotta understand. This book starts with a character who is shitty, and the book loves her. And then the book kind of explains a little bit why she's so shitty, but that's about halfway through, and the well has been poisoned. And still, she never has to eat shit for all the ways she's shitty, and the book loves her so much. That's honestly the biggest problem with this book, is that the book loves her, and so none of the characters really challenge her. It kind of worships the ground she walks on. A lot of the characters can't become kind of lamer because they love her so much. And I think switching it to third person would have helped, because you would have been more distant and a little bit more clinical about her character. I think also starting the book where it starts is a bad decision. Um, in that you really should start with more of her motivations for why she's doing these things, because by the time you get to there, the well was just poisoned for me. I was like, you're just a shitty, I don't like you, you're not a good person. And so even when it tries to complicate her, I still was like, and what's interesting is I actually found the first half more readable than the second half, in that like things were actually happening, and like pretty quickly, and like the plot was moving along. And then in the second half, it's a lot of her having panic attacks, and like the PTSD is well portrayed, but I also just could not stand her and Emmerich, and her and Giselle's relationship.
No, I know.
Go
Listen.
ahead.
Listen. So first off, I think the one thing this book does is that it fails to capitalize, because here's the thing. There's a scene that is a really cool, like fun scene, but also pissed me off. That shows Vanya's personality. A couple of the patrons are talking about it in the comments right now. It has to do with a ruby being attached to a face.
God, I hated
Um,
that scene. Some people love
uh,
that scene. I hated
yeah,
it. It's the same
but
stupid scene as in The Last Jedi at the beginning, where the evil guy is saying something and then Poe is like, hey, can you wait for the end of the answering machine? It's like, good job puncturing any seriousness from this plot. Good job.
anyway, the problem for me, the fundamental problem, because the relationships I was most invested in was Giselle and Vanya. That is the heart of this story. For me, it isn't actually what the author is trying to do, is not that. But for me, I was most invested in that. And I think the best way to make Vanya a likable character is to have Giselle as her foil. These two characters who have had to go on opposing paths and in some ways become each other, where everything that makes Giselle dislikable from their childhood, Vanya takes up in adulthood, and the things that made Vanya sympathetic in childhood, Giselle takes up in the year of her servitude. And so I really wish it had been in third person, and that it had been told from both Giselle and Vanya's point of view. Also because I really wanted to see the Ragna and Giselle romance firsthand. It was fucking adorable and I loved it.
Hey, Lindbergh, I'm actually going to be quoting you from the Discord later, because you brought up some really good points that I screenshotted. And you and I vibe when it comes to this book. A couple of things. Miss Ali Snow said, it was melodramatic at times, but it constantly cut the drama with awkward teen humor. Yeah, this is one of those books where the character is sassy and tries to be witty a lot of the time, and is like, it's the Joss Whedon, like, it's a serious situation, but I'm going to say something funny. And it's not. You're not Tamsin Muir. You're not
Yep.
Diana Wynne Jones. Don't try so much. And I think that Maria's right in that. See, the thing is, to me, Giselle's story is more interesting. And I get that, like, it's the whole, like, maybe we shouldn't. The violence inherent in the system is just as bad as when the people, the lower class, does the violence to the upper class. Like, I get that whole thing, but it's also about who kicks who first, in that the upper class kicks Vanya first in terms of the timeline of events, but we don't see that till like halfway through the novel. So she's just being shitty to people and murdering detectives. And then it's like, oh, but I have reasons for it. And like by that point, I was like, I don't care if you have reasons. You're not going to have to eat shit. Characters who are unlikable need to eat shit before they get likable. Maria, what happens with Emma in Jane Austen?
So I was gonna say this is a perfect example of where the Emma trope or the Jane Austen has a lot of characters that have to eat shit. Lizzie Bennet also. So what it is if you have set up a character who, for reasonable purposes, again, in Jane Austen's Emma is a bored, very intelligent, and young girl who is bored out of her mind, who is not being actively, her brain is not being actively applied to anything. So she starts using all her knowledge and shit to fuck with people's lives. She's not doing it intentionally. She's not doing it to be a bitch, but it makes her so unlikable. And she takes for granted the privileges that have come to her. And so, like, for most of Emma, I'm like, eat shit, Emma, eat shit. But Emma has to eat shit. She can't have the happy ending until she eats shit. And this is going to be my one other fundamental issue with this book is we never have a moment where Vanya herself actually eats shit. We have a
Yep.
moment where people accuse her of something she didn't do. But what I mean by eat shit is when you do something. And so for Lizzie Bennett, it's choosing to believe what's his face over Darcy, the guy who runs off with her sister and think he's a good guy, and to not trust, like, to be a dick to Darcy. And for Emma, it's for being a dick to the, like, old lady aunt lady who just is talks a lot because she's poor and has nothing going for her. And then everybody's like, fuck you, Emma. Why the fuck did you do that? And Emma has to look at her life and then also realizing she nearly costs her the girl she's become friends with a actual reasonable marriage, and the girl's now in love with the person she's in love with. Like she because of her actions, she has to eat some shit. Okay? And Lizzie
Two more
Bennett
characters. Two more characters from popular fiction that people may. Tony Stark immediately eats shit at the beginning of
eats
that
shit.
movie. One of the
Eats
not
shit.
to get into a side discourse about Captain Marvel because that's filled with really gross man boys and just annoying people. But like one of the reasons I don't think that character was as liked, obviously because she's female and there's all that thing. But like she doesn't have to eat shit at any point, whereas Tony Stark immediately eats shit for being kind of a dick. Jamie Lannister, take a shot. He loses his arm. He loses the only thing anyone has ever valued him for. And that's a massive amount of shit to eat for the bad things he's done. And so Vanya, not that she needs to lose a limb, though I would not have been opposed to seeing that, but she never has to eat shit in that way. Again, she murders somebody, does not feel bad about it at all. The guy lives, but like never cares about it. Just
And
no nothing.
And there's one thing that she almost had, like, that she sort of baby has to eat shit, but the problem was this happens off screen mostly, which is she has to eat a tiny little teaspoonful of shit for stealing Giselle's life and abandoning her friends that she came
A shit to
from the other.
teeth.
A shit to teeth, you know, and it wasn't like a bowl. Vanya does enough things. She's selfish enough that she should have done something that because like even with I thought the moment she was going to eat shit was when she put the knife to Emmerich's throat and she was going to have to then earn back his trust. No, the man goes home immediately and goes, I know you're a sad broken little bird, I love you anyway, which again, I liked their romance more
Can
than
we
I think
talk
some
about
other
how if he
people.
was female, people would talk about how weak a female character he was and how misogynistic the author was? He literally exists just to pet Vanya on the head and be like, "It's okay. It's okay. I don't have a character or goals. It's okay. I love you. You're hot."
I did not get that.
Okay, Lindbergh talked about this, shout out, that in the book he starts with like goals and a specific way of being, and he talks about how like you can't be around criminals because it'll like bias you. And then he kind of completely forgets about all of that. And it's just
Yes.
like, I never knew what
He
bravery was till I met you and I
Yeah,
wanted to bang
yeah,
you.
yeah. Okay, never mind. I take it back. Yes, and then also like Aaron just said, Emmerich was an enabler for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of the problem is the most I felt connected to Vanya was either with her with Giselle, like what I wanted out of her was Giselle's plotline, or her being like a dummy with romance, which was cute. And also I liked Emmerich as a romance. I like these idea of these two demisexual people uh getting feelings for each other. You're right. He was a bit of a pan like as enabler is a really good way to phrase it. I don't know. I was still okay with it. Like I didn't hate it. I
If
definitely
it's
liked
your thing,
Ragna.
I
Yeah.
can get
I
that. Like if
definitely liked Ragna and Giselle Moore because fucking adorbs.
well, and
But
also it happens off screen, so you can at least assume something other than shitty writing happened. Shelby says, just came in at tiny teaspoon of shit. This is why you set alarms and don't come in late. Yeah, that's the high quality
who what
content
was
we
the thing?
provide for our patrons. Speaking of, Maria, do we have a Patreon? Like, how are
We
all these people
have
here?
we have a Patreon. It's a good time, guys. We do live streams twice a month. This one was one of our book club live streams where our patrons nominate books. We pick 3 we're kind of into. They vote on which of those 3 we're going to do. So you, as a patron in our book club, actively can influence our choices that we make. We even we do a mid-month live stream where we pick another book, and some of them have been, we chose them because of responses we've had in,
Mhm.
like, Scorpio Races was also nominated to be the end of book club stream video, but so many people started reading it because it had been nominated and it didn't win, and really liked it, that we decided to read it anyway, and it was fantastic and a really good time.
The
And
only good
so
new writer we've met on this entire podcast trip. Maggie Svater?
good
So
job. But it yeah, and then you can talk to really cool people, like all of the people that are here now. One
honestly,
of
we
our
love doing these live streams. We love getting comments. It's so lively. It's good to get different perspectives. Books we thought we didn't have a lot to say about. We actually have a lot to say. What was it? Dowry of Blood, I think. Where I wasn't
yeah,
sure what you and I were going to talk about, but everybody in the comments had like really
had
good takes on
such
it.
good things to say. Speaking of which, we have some interesting things being said. Um uh Amanda says, but wasn't that I don't know what that was in response to.
Um, I think it's the discussion of whether they're ace or demi, which I didn't really catch. I just thought like, oh, okay, they're normal
It
people who don't
it
get.
was when they were yeah, it was the linen closet scene. Um but to be fair, Emmerich was using her for his case.
Shane has
True.
also mentioned that she thinks that. Let me see if I can find it. Ba, 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 ba,
So
ba, ba,
Angry
ba.
Otter, this specifically comes from the scene where they both admit that they have never had, like, they've never wanted to be sexual with someone, but then after they get to know each other and fall for each other, they then want to do intimate things. But they both admit that it's like, and he reacts very strongly against it. So it is there. It's very subtle, but I definitely pulled it up. At first, I thought they were going to go an ace route with Emmerich, and just maybe have it be romantic, but then they didn't, and it was Demi.
Judo Shrew, who is serious shenanigans on Ace or Demi, what we should really talk about was Aldrich being a furry. Look, he likes his
Albrecht.
horses. He likes his horses.
Yeah, and then
It's so
Lindbergh
funny.
says Emmerich was done dirty. I really like his character archetype, but his action seems to contradict his character so much that it didn't make sense. And I will agree to this because he comes out originally so, that's going to be an annoying noise, by the book and like committed to justice, and then like she did steal a bunch of shit, you know? Like she did do the crimes.
There's also this weird dynamic later in the book keeps insisting on later that it's like, oh, they're two opposites. She wants him to catch her, and like they'll play this game endlessly, this dance. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's just literally just been like slobbering over you this entire book. And hold on, there was another thing I was gonna say. Didn't Vanya have a thing for a stable hand or something? Yeah, it's mentioned. That's why I didn't get the sense that they're your demi, but I think you could
Well, no.
accurately read it
Demisexual
that way.
only means you can develop crushes, but you don't
I
want to do something sexual until you like someone. So her having a crush on a stable hand perfectly fits into the demisexual. Like she never did anything with the stable hand, but she had a crush on him, which is entirely possible
to
for
be
demisexual
fair,
people.
I was not super paying attention by this point. I was like, can this
Fair
book
enough.
get done? Yeah, so overall, getting back to it, you guys should join our Patreon. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, please do.
Yes, please do. And support independent journalism. This book, I really disliked it by the end. And again, it's interesting because it does do some interesting things, and like it tries to do it tries to do a lot of the things that I suggest books should do in terms of some of the relationships, but the execution is poor to me, both because of the tone, the viewpoint, and then also where the story starts, and also just Vanya being a shitty person.
Also, really
Shane has
quick,
mentioned that you should see her as a villain, not as a hero, but I understand that viewpoint, but I don't know that it is sustained by the book in terms of the karmic justice of the book is like if she gets a love interest by the end, she's great.
she
Like
gets
the
away
villain
scot. She
wins.
literally walks away with all the rubies and stuff, and because the initial setup is one where she is on like hero journey, because she starts in a bad position. She literally gets shoved up with rubies and pearls and diamonds to become a better person. I don't think you can read her. I think it is the book, if it expects you to read her as a villain, is not playing in on that at all, because she goes on a hero's arc. She saves the day, and she actively, from halfway through the book, starts trying to save the day. And her actions ultimately, like the things that happen in the beginning, ultimately have no impact. Her You get the idea at the end that she was even cursed by that one god to specifically help get rid of Adelbrecht, and take him down. And so her actions and her shitty behavior in the beginning, she has to deal with in some ways in her personal interactions with other people. But I think reading her as a villain it's giving the author too much credit.
Yeah, and the book clearly likes her too much. Again, she gets a fawning person who just talks about how great she is. She wins the friendship of a cool shape-shifting girl for no reason.
Yep.
Um,
And Allie said, which is where I think third person would have helped me, the narrative distance. 100. And then because Pearl had said, yeah, the writing likes her a lot. If it was less obvious, I think I would have liked her more. Which is something that also Will does not like, when he can tell what the author loves too much.
Look, I'm so contra. You don't understand. My basic instinct to everything in life is somebody telling me to do something. I'm like, fuck that. I've actually learned that I should not respond to people for like 5 minutes, because that fuck you response will go away. And then I'll be like, yeah, okay, fine. I should revamp my life. Like, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. But go ahead and let's start with the plot.
Honestly, I want to go through the plot really quick with this one, because I think a lot of people have some really good ideas about how this could have worked better. And I would like to give an actual kind of like plot summary of how I think the Giselle focus, the her and Giselle focus story would have worked really well. Anyway, the plot of this. Welcome to Fantasylandia, Germany. It's not called
Already,
Germany.
apparently the narrator does not have a good accent. Lindbergh was saying. So already I hate it. Go ahead.
Yes. And there was a discussion. I think Shamed and Lindbergh were having this discussion. I didn't read the actual textbook, so I didn't see this, but apparently there was an issue with like the German words and the using italices to offset them or not. Oh, no, not Germany, Bavaria.
Don't
Thank
they
you,
speak
Lindbergh.
German there? Oh, okay, right, okay. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Fantasy Bavaria.
Yes, Fantasy
Bavaria.
Bavaria. Anyway, Bavaria. And in this fantasy place, there was a girl whose mom was like, I am the 13th daughter, and this is my daughter, who is the 13th daughter. She's heckin' bad luck. I'm going to abandon her to the fucking gods, because milk sour is where she goes. I actually would have liked if she actually was bad luck, but apparently her mom was just unnecessarily superstitious. It's whatevs. And so you have a main character, our main character Vanya, abandoned by her mom and taken in by the gods of fortune and death, who become her godmothers. But then, and this isn't explained early enough in the beginning for it to make sense, because you leave her off with her being taken in by fortune and death, and then suddenly she's pretending to be a princess, and you're like, how did these things happen? But timeline wise, apparently she could only live with them until about 6, and at 6, or I don't know, 6 7, she had to be given to this the Fallbergs, to be a servant in their castle. Which why would death and fortune put her there? Why would they set her up to be a servant? I don't know, like.
Also, fortune and death are like personified as people. Fascinating idea to be raised by them. At one point, she talks about how. So what happens is once she's at this castle, suddenly she's there. I don't know why death and fortune were like do this. They're like they come back and they're like, look, you got to serve one of the two of us. And she
When
talks about
she's
how
13.
yeah, she talks about how difficult it was, like, oh, realizing that, like, oh, they're not really her mothers. Fascinating idea to realize that your mother's love is conditional and not unconditional. Fascinating idea to be raised by gods, not explored in the book. The thing is that this element of the book is not needed. It does nothing. Like, she can kind of see when death is creeping up on people. So, in plot
and
terms, it's
and
vaguely
fortune.
important. But, like, it is not at all a part of this. Like, you can take that out and nothing in this book changes. She even still has all of the same motivations. It's very, very weird that, like, this is even in the book.
Especially because it doesn't play, because again, we've talked about this a lot, where I think a lot of books would benefit from exploring the really cool family dynamics at play instead of trying to
Diana
reach
Wynne Jones.
farther. She's a master of family dynamics, but a lot of, and we've said this a lot of books set up really, really fantastic family dynamics and then just abandon them for external conflict. Like, you already got conflict.
Or love interests.
Yes.
And, like,
And so honestly, I think the core of this book should have been Vanya with Fortune and Death, and then Giselle and Vanya. That should have been the two things we were actively exploring. Tis not the case. Anyway, Vanya's a servant at the Fallbergs. She serves their daughter Giselle. Her and Giselle become hecky besties. But then this other like bitchy girl named Irmgard comes in, and Irmgard, I thought it was cute that Giselle realized she was into girls the first time because of Irmgard, because
I
Irmgard was
liked
pretty.
Guard.
I was happy with Irmgard's punishments in the end. I did not like her.
Pretty
Um,
bitchy girl. It's one of these things.
and she's super bitchy. She starts torturing Vanya. Eventually, after a while, once Giselle gets off her crush high, she realizes that Irmgard is also terrible. Irmgard, and this is, I'm giving you guys all this information because this is all the information that informs who Vanya is. And unfortunately, I think this author waited too long
Halfway through the book.
to give you this information. And again, if you're setting this book up around, and it's not, but it should have, Giselle and Vanya, this is pertinent. And also because all the little intro chapters were about Giselle and Vanya. So like, I don't know why they didn't do this. I am so, oh, bye Max.
Bye.
Bye. So I don't know why the author didn't do this, because anyway, so Irmgard accuses Vanya of stealing a ring. Giselle knows she didn't, doesn't defend her, and Vanya ends up getting whipped like an adult, and she is young. She's like 13 at this point. And this is the night she her like Death and Fortune are like, pick one of us, and so she's not having a great day at all, because she doesn't want to be her mother's servants. She doesn't want to like choose between them, and she's also been whipped. And so it's at this point she realizes she's got to take care of herself. She's got to look out for numero uno. That's herself. And Giselle, completely by her standards, had abandoned her. So she bides her time. And then when Giselle, I don't know, there's this real dick guy named Adelbrecht who comes, and they talk about him like as the wolf. He comes in, he's like, I am the Margrave, and I am a dick, and I want to marry your 16-year-old daughter. And Giselle's mom is like, oh, my daughter's not pretty enough, and if she's really beautiful, it'll protect her from terrible men. So her mom goes, buys super, and sells a fuck ton of shit to buy super magical pearls that make Giselle look real fucking fine and hot, but look nothing like herself. And in the Fallberg Castle, while the Dick Adelbrecht is there, he's like, he finds Vanya one night, and this needed a skosh more setup earlier than it was. This was another thing that took a little bit too long for the revelation, because it also informs a lot of Vanya's interactions with people. And again, it was just something that needed to be brought up a little bit earlier. But he does her an accost in the night, and nothing gets too far, but she is shown weak. Like she felt the weakness of the moment, the loss of control, the fear. Giselle ends up intercepting. He fucks off, like nothing happens. But they send, when Giselle gets shipped off to Adelbrecht's castle, Reichenbach castle, to be his bride to be, they send Vanya with, specifically as a thing to put between Giselle and Adelbrecht, like a sacrifice. And Vanya knows this, and Giselle hasn't grappled with this. Again, this is so much more interesting than a lot of the stuff we deal with. So frustrating.
Here's the thing. I would say, and so what happens next is
Oh, yes, Janicia saved her. Thank you, shamed.
Vanya takes
Janicia
the
is the quote.
pearls, decides to live as Giselle. Giselle has to go be poor. Okay, here's the thing. All of this stuff you don't know until about halfway through the book. Um, okay, so Lindbergh said, had I read the whipping scene, I would have empathized with Vanya so much. I felt like the book robbed me of this moment of bonding. Legible Scrawl says, if the goal of the author is to make you sympathetic toward Vanya, this isn't an appropriate information for a reveal.
Yes.
Yes.
Lindbergh also says, yeah, we both
Every
clicked it.
single thing that would have made Vanya into someone I could feel for was told to us as a justification of our actions rather than shown so we could understand Vanya. Right. So all of the stuff Maria said, forget it. Forget it. We don't know about it until halfway through the rest of this summer. So just silo that off. Here's the Vanya we meet in chapter 1.
I mean,
Ooh,
yes,
rich people
shamed.
stuff.
She was the bard, but she helped out. My biggest memory is her in the kitchen making pastries.
All right,
This
you
is
know how
true.
Maria does a lot of hand motions and stuff? My turn. Here's Vanya at the beginning of the book. Ooh, I hate rich people. They're so dumb. I'm stealing from all of them. I need a lot of money so I can leave the country and live well because apparently death and fortune don't live in other countries. Maybe I'm not sure, but I'm still going to give that a shot. Okay, even though I was not trained, I was trained by a bard. I can now like do super cool spy thief stuff and heists. And what I'm doing is I'm leaving a red penny at the end because there's some dumb stuff about Giselle being the white penny and me being the red penny, and so this is symbolic. I'm also living now as a really rich person. What do you think? How did that go?
Beautiful,
Thank you.
excellent. Couldn't have
Thank you.
done it. Couldn't. Not enough hand motions,
Good
but
point.
the facial. Oh, I could feel it. You got into
She did a
character.
heckin' heist.
Yes, she did a heck, and that's how the book actually.
For
You get
why,
a
my
very
dude?
tiny. Yeah, you get a very tiny initial scene of her with like the gods, and then you're in the heist scene. And I actually kind of enjoyed the heist scene, but I would have enjoyed it more with less of her internal dialogue. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't do me any good for the character to think they're smart before I know they're smart. And like she does stuff like, and I think Lindbergh had made the comment that like the you sending the pillows ahead and stuffing the pillows with the things that she needed for this heist was really smart. And there are moments when she does this, like she does things that are great, but she's too full of herself about it. And not that I'm the contrarian Will is, but even I'm like,
A-
calm down.
and look, here's the thing. In real life, eat the rich. I am so anti-rich. It's not even funny. I am a
Oh, yay,
socialist.
Penny, you made it. Sorry,
I was gonna say,
egotism.
yeah, yeah. Shout out. We keep clicking on the
God, we
same
keep
one.
doing it.
Shout out, Mr. Lamont. Um, as long as okay, so like theoretically, I should be behind this, but there's such cackling like rich people, and Vanya has so much distaste for them before they have done anything. Again, here's what I'm going to talk about. Rich
And this
people
is I agree with.
in a materialist sense, rich people perform a lot of unseen violence by inflicting poorness on poor people. Nobody cares when poor people die of hunger, but you slap a rich person and all of a sudden that is seen as violence, right? As Monty Python says, there's violence inherent in the system. So Vanya has been a victim of this inherent violence in the system through the whipping primarily, and then
And the
the
Fallbergs being
the
dicks
assault and people not believing her. But it looks more like she is kicking rich people for no reason from the very beginning. And
while living as a rich person.
yeah, and she's not giving this money away. She's actually just not a good person. Like that's something to mention here. She's not Robin Hood. Later on, at one point, she gives a bunch of rich people, gives a bunch of money to poor people because she thinks she needs to for a curse. But like even then, she just kind of does it,
It's
and she
it's
doesn't.
also not her money.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
it
Actually,
wasn't her money. Like the amount of time it took for Vanya to realize you need to be selfless, shithead, just made it so like, and that wasn't believable. Like, I'm sorry, if you want me to think a character is smart, at some point they need to be like, oh, I have to do a selfless action, which means I can't plan to do it. So let's fucking go. Anyway. Oh, Miss Allie Snow says Vanya doesn't only steal from aristocrats, though.
who does she? I must
Yeah,
have forgot. I must have missed that part.
Allie, who else does? Because I also am blanking on that. Yes, and Erin says she does all this while living with the stolen identity of a rich person who ended up living on the streets, so she could be the new rich person. Um,
Mhm.
Legible Scrawl says, I actually loved how full of herself she was, teen ego blossoming, and the delight of it was ruined when she didn't fall on her plate uh, under the weight of her hubris. Again, that's what could have made it so good.
Mhm. She
Paul's
the
thing with the polls.
Oh, okay, the
Oh, the
pawnbroker's son.
pawnbrokers. Yes,
Yeah,
Shamed is correct.
she
Yeah, yeah,
uses
yeah.
math to steal, which first of all, that's just dark magic to me. I don't even understand how that worked. That might as well just have been a blank page in terms of explanations. It's just math. And yeah, so and again, you root for the character who's being kicked on screen. She is not kicked on screen. She is kicking a bunch of people, and you naturally are like, but why? And okay, and then also my main problem again with this book is that the I don't really have a problem with her actions. I have a problem with being so rooted in her POV, and I have a problem with the book thinking she's great. The book again, she never has to eat shit for any of this.
Yep. She manages to get away with all the shitty stuff that she does in the beginning with very little actual consequences to herself, which is what keeps her and what defeats a nice arc. Because, like Legible Scrawl said, it's great to watch Teen Ego get punched in the face and then have someone come out the other end of it a bit more adult and learned. That's an arc. We watch that all the time. It's
Mhm.
a staple, and it's a good staple for a reason. It's a solid arc, and it doesn't feel like, because it feels like the book likes Vanya a bit too much, she doesn't go through that. Now again, there are some people who just like that character type, and so I think a lot of these issues won't be issues for them. I will argue though that I don't think that means they're not issues. I think it's one of those, like, me with some of the books I've admitted to being subjectively very fond of, but I can acknowledge the objective issues with them. I think this really is an objective issue. There are very few moments where I feel like Vanya she deals with other things, like she has to deal with a butt ton of other things, but those things don't stem directly from her actions.
Yeah. No, it's true. And again, I think if you want us to be in her headspace, you need to show how she ended up so bitter and unlikable and selfish. And that doesn't happen. That's why it can't be a reveal. This book needed to start in a different place. But okay, back to the plot.
So wait, Miss Allie Snow made a point. I bring to you Mean Girls as a way to show that teenagers like watching characters they like to get punched in the face. The main character in Mean Girls starts out really sweet, gets really built, like hooked into the Mean Girl lifestyle and the clique, and she ends up getting punched down. She loses the friends she had before she decided to be a bitch, and she lost the friends while she was a bitch, and then she had to earn people's trust back. That's a cult classic. When it came out, we were
Mhm.
teens, were we not?
It's actually very common for books to have a like the protagonist starts this way and they learn this lesson from it.
Also, Allie, my point is just that I think the author was trying to do what you said, that she was trying to do this, but I think it is a disservice to think that kids cannot appreciate that.
Yes.
And that's why I
Maria
brought that
got
up.
very loud and aggressive there. We
Yeah.
apologize.
It
Please don't
wasn't
think it's
directed
weird.
at you, it was directed at the author. Yeah. It was
um
definitely the author that was directed at.
right. So back to the plot. She steals some stuff. A detective comes into town who apparently works for a bunch of gods which are unelected. I don't know why we're supposed to submit to their justice. Again, watery tarts throwing swords is no basis for a form of government. And at this
What?
point, he works for a bunch of gods.
Why do gods need to be elected?
That's the only legitimacy government have is from the will of the people.
Seeing as that they are literally ruled by not elected government officials, I think you are very mistaken as the rules of this world.
Well, I'm no. I'm saying that the book thinks it's great that like he leads to the judgment of gods, but I am saying why would you accept their authority? They are unelected officials,
Oh, you were
tyrants.
being smart. Okay.
I am smart.
Smart
Um,
ass. That's what I meant. You were being a smart ass for no reason. Guys, sometimes.
I'm a socialist. The thing about it is that okay, so the next and the detective guy is called Emmerich. This is the guy who starts off as a character and ends as being wet paper. And we're told that he is a detective, and his whole thing is that he's very uncertain of
Oh, yeah,
himself.
no,
He's
you
very
forgot the
young.
curse. You forgot the curse, buddy.
Oh, right, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
The second
So
ticking
she
clock that
steals
makes no sense.
Yeah, she steals the jewels from the house that she was at, and then as she's going out, she's going through the woods, and she's like, "Ooh, I did a hack and steal, but Adelbrecht is coming, which means I'm gonna have to fake marry him, which means I need to leave in like 2 weeks." And so, time number one, which we learned that night, Adelbrecht is coming back, and the wedding is gonna happen. And she's not actually Giselle, so she does not want to marry this guy. Number two, the god of this particular forest busts out and is like, "Bitch, you stole something that I gave someone." And she's like, "I didn't steal nothing of yours." And then the god's like, "I gave that family a ring of protection and you stole it. Now I'm going to curse, I'm going to give you a gift, which is for you to be everything you want unless you can figure out how to return what you've stolen." And she gets a giant ruby just on the side of her face. Now, here is a scene that is very divisive amongst the community. And by the community, I mean us and our patrons,
Join the
where
Patreon to be part of the community.
for me, I lean a little bit more towards Will. I get the humor of it, but it felt a bit too Marvel movie for me in this moment. Where this god is literally cursing her to turn into a jeweled statue. And her, while the god is talking and trying to explain the rules of the curse, she's like, "Hold up, let me try pry this giant ruby off my face. I'm made. I don't have to worry about money forever." Um, and for some people, it's really indicative of who she is as a character and the humor, and it's a little irreverent. And for me, I'm like, "You are being cursed by a god. Shut the fuck up and listen. What are you doing?" And so, because
It takes a
Courtney
lot of
says,
weight from the scene.
"It seemed very teenage to me," but, like, I'm sorry, have you ever seen a teenager in a threatening situation? They turn into children real quick. Like,
So Amanda Ricketson earlier in the conversation, because I monitor it while Maria's talking because I care about our patrons, was talking about how this book is very like a very young YA, and so from because she's a teacher for middle schoolers, they would like not necessarily have some of the problems we have with it. And this is a case where like as a teenager, it's sort of it's a kind of broad comedy that maybe somebody who is younger would find funny, but now it just does feel very Marvel-y to me, and it saps any real seriousness from the situation. The other thing to remember about this curse, because the curse is that yeah, right. So the thing to remember about the curse is that it puts a ticking timer on the plot of like this curse is going to turn her into jewels eventually. But we already have a ticking timer of her godmothers want her to make a decision about which of them she's going to follow. And then we also have the whole Adelbrecht plot. And so like you have these three competing sources of tension, none of which actually feel very tensiony, because it's like she's not going to die, and like her picking from her parents, there's this weird thing where like they want her to pick by a certain time, but if she gets to be 17, she doesn't have to pick. And you're like, what? Like that part was poorly defined to me in terms of
yeah.
the uh, consequences.
Also, someone makes the point, legible scrawl, and this is something that I thought about. It makes sense
Hmm.
that she would be irreverent, though, given that she was raised by God and throws temper tantrums around them as well. The difference is, this works if death, for me, if she knows death and fortune will help her. But since we know she will not get help from death and fortune, and she will refuse their help, she's literally being cursed in a curse that will end with her death. And that is the part that, like, because it's like it would be like if your parents were teachers and then you were dealing with an angry teacher, but you were still going to get an F and go to detention.
Hmm.
Would you be it, like, in that moment? Are you going to be a dick? Now, yes, have I seen teenagers be a dick in those situations? Yes, but it's a god who's
There's
literally
also no
cursing her.
internal sense of like, oh God, I am freaking out, but like this is just how I talk or this is how I deal with it. This isn't
Yeah,
Naomi Novik where people, yeah. But she was
sorry.
only raised by gods until the age of 6, Aaron Houston says. Yeah, that also is weird. Uh,
I didn't understand that. Why? I think there was a point that she couldn't stay in the god realm much longer and she had to go back. why put her with the Fallbergs? Why did like there's so many tiny little problems of world building in the start of this. Why does she have to be their servant? This is never fully articulated. Why does she have to choose to serve one of them? Why can't she just live her life and then when she dies, she has to pick one of them to serve? And so she's just trying to avoid having to pick
Oh,
one of them.
also, not clearly defined why she doesn't want to serve one of them. Like, it's really not brought up. It basically, she doesn't want to have to choose between them, is one thing she says. And then that's it. And the thing about it is that somebody in the Discord pointed out that, like, well, you shouldn't have to. It makes sense that she wouldn't want to be a slave. And it's like, okay, but A, that's not explained that we don't actually know what being a servant of theirs
Looks like.
means. And also, that should then be explicated in the plot. You have to show your work. And this doesn't, and just vaguely gesturing at an idea is not the same as making it concrete for the character and concrete for us. Also, in this economy, she's complaining about a set career path that she gets taken care of for all her life. Unrelatable.
And then she can get help from the gods whenever she wants. And again, I much more was into the I want to be your daughter, like, and her being jealous of Ragna than her being like, I don't want to choose between the two of you. I'll be outside. Like, I liked the servant versus daughter issue. The actual issues with being a servant, I was less into as a thing. But again, there's just tiny little world building things that in the beginning that are a little bit weaker than I would like them to be because of how they are these ticking time bombs on the plot. Anyway, continuing. I said we weren't going to take a long time. So then the prefect comes. It's Emmerich. He's a junior prefect. She thinks she's got him figured out. He acts like he's a novice dummy, but he's not. He figures out she's the thief person pretty quickly. He kind of confronts her about it. He knows that she's pretending to be Giselle. He literally looks into her past. She don't like that. She throws him out a window. You discover that within the Reichenbach house,
Whoa, whoa,
there
whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. She murders him. Or at least attempts to. She
attempts.
throws him out a window and thinks he's going to die in the river. No remorse
Yes.
at all. Nothing. And like he doesn't die because she's like, I need the bag. And then Ragna, who we haven't talked about yet, saves him. But this is one of the cases where she does a legitimately bad thing, not against rich people, and doesn't think it's like, not she never has to eat shit for that. He never really cares. It's just kind
Oh,
of treated as a joke.
sorry, really quick. Aaron Houston made it would have been more believable if she had been angry at her godmothers for abandoning her with the humans who whipped her unattended potential when it comes to the core relationships. Absolutely. That's way more compelling of a reason for her to be like, fuck you.
Also,
And
kind of an interesting contrast in her believing the gods should take care of her as a class, kind of a
yep.
different kind of class.
And then Lindbergh points out to this next point, Vanya is even pissed when she finds out Ragna saved him. Because what happens is, so first off, Iswald is the goddess who cursed her, and Iswald sent her daughter Ragna to watch Vanya and keep an eye on her.
Ragna is
And
Pharaoh girl who can shapeshift. She's a great character, maybe
she's
the only one in the novel.
she is so I like Giselle. I
I
like
felt like Giselle took a really long time to feel like a character.
No, absolutely she did. Again, the one of the weakest moments of potential this book left laying on the table was not fleshing out Giselle sooner. Anyway, and Ragna shapeshifts. She calls everyone so it's the Vanya, the Emmerich, the
Which
Giselle.
ever since Half-Life 2, when the Vortigons call Alex Vance the Alec Vance, I love calling people the whatever, like the
Yeah,
Maria. So
it's
I
so
vibed
cute.
with her.
It's so cute. I love her. But anyway, she tells Ragna to he's got the bag, go take care of it. And what she means is get the bag, let him drown. And Ragna takes him out, saves him because she was like, I took care of him. Oh yeah, because that's what she says. Take care of him. And Ragna, who has not spent a lot of time around humans, is like, I took care of him. I took him out of the river, and the Giselle was there, and she helped him, and now everything, like, he's okay. Here's the bag. And she's like, God damn. And so Will's right. She does really attempt to just murder this guy. Um, she also was she
Oh,
tries to
can I
sell the
say, by the
jewels.
way,
Yeah.
I kind of wanted Emmerich and Giselle to hook up. I don't know
Yes,
why,
I
but
don't
that
know
seems so
why
much more
too, but
interesting.
that was my initial
Yeah.
thought. Was I thought the two of them were gonna be a thing.
Yeah, I would have liked that more. Well, the problem with Ragna is that she actually likes Vanya when Vanya is just a shitty person.
Yeah.
Actually, it kind of would have been interesting to see Ragna as someone who has no morals interacting with somebody and not realizing that they're
Mhm.
bad and then growing to realize that no, morals are actually important. And then the midpoint could be like her abandoning Vanya and Vanya realizing that's the moment she has to eat shit, which does not happen actually. Because again, the author just loves Vanya and
Ooh,
wants her to make like kissy faces with Emmerich.
once again, our
There's no
patrons are
kissy.
having a great conversation. So, Legible Scrawl says, I disagree, Angry Otter. I think they should have thrown out the Icefald stuff, so the curse where she has all the rubies and everything on her, and elaborated on the parental relationship stuff. To which Angry Otter says, sounds like it should have been two different stories. It should have. This book does suffer, Skosh, from the too many things problems. Again, it had some good things, but then it had other things, and not all of the things were as fleshed out as they needed to be to make it as good as it could have been. Anyway, so she throws him out. She tries to sell some jewelry. The guy she's selling jewelry is a friend from back when she worked at the old castle, the Falkenberg Castle. He is heckin' addicted to some drugs, and he's going through withdrawals, and he sees the ruby in her face, and he tries to cut it out and accidentally kills himself. Um, Remember this: Vanya's going to get blamed for this death twice. um, and she dumps his, despite it being someone she knows. She does the best thing she can at the time, which is apparently dumping his body into the river, which is also where she threw the other guy's body when she thought he was going to die. He lives. He comes back to the castle. There's a lot of like him not immediately being like, and then I guess this makes sense. At first, I was like, why isn't he immediately being like, Adelbrecht, your wife's not actually, or your bride to be is not who she says she is. But what you discover is Ermeric is not here for the Red Penny Thief. That's a cover. He's actually here for Margrave Adelbrecht because he is a heckin' bad guy.
I
Also,
hate. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. I said he accidentally kills himself, which I still stand by, which somebody held. And then Shane said he fell on his own dagger. I would maintain that is accidentally
It's
killed
kind of a
himself.
okay. Here's the thing we need to talk about with the big bad, whose name I've already forgot. That just happens to me a lot.
Adelbrecht.
Adelbert. I've been playing a lot of Total Warhammer, so I'm good with the German names right now.
Mhm.
The thing about it is that he is a cackling villain. And I actually really dislike the shift from, okay, it's a cat and mouse between Vanya and Emmerich to, oh, actually, it's fine. Adelbrecht is the real one we need to take down. We'll give you clemency for like whatever you did. I think that should have stayed a much more present tension between the two at the very least of like, what are we going to do after this? It's the pot simmering. It's the, the ticking bomb under the table kind of tension. But no, that can't work because Emmerich needs to just spread himself out, have water spread on him, and become a wet blanket.
I agree. I think I was much more interested in them playing a cat and mouse game. Like, I honestly thought Emmerich was not going to be a love interest. I didn't realize it in the beginning. I thought it was going to be a cat and mouse game. I also thought he was going to somehow end up with Giselle. Don't ask me why. I like Ragnar better, but like, I I I like the idea of him bonding with Giselle, learning her story, and then
Mhm.
through getting used to Giselle and Giselle reconnecting with Vanya to being humanized that way, and then him like, I thought she was going to arrest Vanya. She was going to go to court, make it
Okay,
a
guys,
lighter sentence.
here's the thing. Giselle is a much more sympathetic character than Vanya because we see bad things happen to her from the beginning. We don't see the bad thing. The bad things about her are revealed halfway, which is a much better place to do it. Here's the other thing. You guys know, or if you're new viewers, and some of you guys are, because I haven't mentioned this for a while, I am fanfic trash. I am fanfic trash.
Yes.
There is this one Harry Potter AU, not from the Harry Potter universe. I want to point out, it was it was a pairing that was in Game of Thrones, that was then in Harry Potter. I do not support Harry Potter fan fiction in any way. And the main pairing that I had came for actually became one of the less interesting relationships. Like, it was still interesting, but the main relationship I really wanted to see was this female character reconnecting with 2 or 3 friends that she had unconnected with because of some traumatic stuff that happened to her. And, like, that was the relationship I was most interested in seeing, and I wish this book could have done that with Vanya and Giselle, because
Yeah.
I think that would have just been a lot more interesting.
I would have preferred there not to be a romance, honestly, unless it was just Giselle and Ragna. Like, I would have been
Giselle and
okay.
Emmerich, pistolas.
I liked her and Ragna.
Hand pistolas, handgun pistolas.
I'm gonna defend her and Ragna. I would have liked if Emmerich was with no one. If Emmerich had been just a little asexual bub
Look,
out for justice, you know?
look, I'm as surprised as I am that I am going against my sapphic tendencies in this regard. But for some reason,
I'm shocked.
to be honest, it may be because it didn't happen in the book. Like, if Emmerich and Giselle had happened, I would also feel like it was bad because the author just is not very good
Yes,
at
that's
writing.
probably
So that
exactly
probably is
why.
part of the problem.
Anyway, the book then shifts from, like Will said, from it being Emmerich versus Vanya to everybody's got to figure out what's going on with Adelbert. They reconnect with Giselle. Her and Giselle have a fight, but then kind of apologize with each other. She has to apologize to the the bard lady who taught her a bunch of stuff that she abandoned, and like it takes her way too long to figure out what she had to apologize to her. But anyway, I'm not going into that much detail. And basically, it becomes we need to deal with this asshole and them putting a case because what Emmerich does as a prefect of the low courts is he can call a meeting of the low court, which is literally a meeting of the gods. And they will come hear the
Unelected,
case.
unelected justice, so it's illegitimate.
Get out of here. Get out. Thank you. Jesus. Um, and but they need an ironclad case, which means they now know that Adelbrecht has tried to kill Giselle, aka Vanya, multiple times. He's tried to kill Emmerich a couple of times. They know this, but they need actual proof. So they start pulling together their case. During this part, Vanya is able to reconnect with the people that she had abandoned previously with not the right amount of shit eating. Um,
Mhm.
she has to make apologies to everyone, but it's very quick and it felt a little perfunctory. Like I again, more exploration of this. I would have liked it to be a slow burn where they start. There's still a lot of tension, and then it very slowly, and maybe something
Mhm.
happens, and they have a trip down memory lane, and then the confession happens. But they have it out kind of quickly. But anyway, um Giselle starts pretending to be herself and helping because Vanya was having to be two people all the time. And eventually they have enough of a case against Adelbrecht, but then Adelbrecht decides to like put there are these little tiny Nachtmaren, nightmare monsters that look like horses that he put in Emmerich's ear, and it was going to explode into a giant thing unless Vanya did what he said. And he has like he does his mustache twirling, blah blah blah. They basically like trick him in the last scene. I don't know.
There's a
My
giant
favorite
kite.
part, my favorite,
There's
yeah, there's a giant kaiju battle.
which somebody in the comments pointed out, furry kaiju battle, but Vanya didn't even turn into a giant goose. Why even bother? Good point. Good point.
Oh yeah, Miss Allie Snow mentioned. Oh, where did it go? Where did
No,
it
hold
go?
on. Amanda says Albrecht is just a misunderstood
Should
horse.
horse girl. um,
That's
Miss
really
Allie Snow
funny.
says yes, and sort of she sort of has a revelation that maybe she's shitty, but it's just because of a potion that she takes, so it feels unearned. Also, there's a whole undercurrent as her romance is happening with Ermric. Ermric's like mentor dad guy ends up dying, and there's a moment where he thinks it was her because he was killed in a way to make it look like it was the red penny thief. And he immediately, despite being friendly with her beforehand, working with her beforehand, and them kind of developing some bib feels, assumes it's her, chases her through the streets. Giselle and the other lady kind of believe him, and everybody's like looking at her, and then it's Ragna who has to come up, because the problem is this could have worked as an eating shit moment if she had actually done the thing, and this had been a sword of Damocles that finally came down.
Mhm.
Like, because it's one thing if she had done something before she understood the ramifications, like if she had actually killed Clemens, um to keep herself safe, because that's what she felt she had to do, and before she knew how important he was, but she didn't, she never did, she was innocent. This was just a case of a man being super suspicious for no reason. um
And
and
so there's also a lot she has a lot of trauma and PTSD about not having been believed when she got whipped, and so she constantly is like, I can't deal with this, I gotta go, no one's gonna believe me." So one of the things we have left out that you don't get an impression for is how many times she does a thing, is afraid that Emmerich will misunderstand it, and then Emmerich is like, "You poor baby, it's okay. I understand you immediately." That happens like
so
4 or 5 times, and it's really boring and repetitive. And again, it's one of these things where the author would be well suited if they just hung back on the romance a little bit and made us chase it versus just being like,
yes, and Miss Allie Snow mentions, and Emmerich, the great prodigy investigator, doesn't even check with Ragna first. um but Angry Otter says, "Damn it, I'm not finishing this book. It sounds like a shit house after the linen closet scene." Listen, I enjoyed the last third because more stuff was happening and there was like some actual like plot to follow. But it definitely, like, as I'm retelling it, I'm realizing that the stuff I was most invested in was the stuff I narrated first, which was the family dynamic
yeah.
stuff. And now that I'm having to do all of this stuff, I'm like, eh. Anyway, her and Emmerich kind of like, once he gets over being a dick, and accusing her of something she didn't do, when Ragna's like, "And you are all being mean to the Vanya. You suck." Um and everybody's like, "Oh shit." He
I hate it.
apologizes.
I hate how much Rania likes Vanya. She
Ragna,
deserved
yeah.
better. My little shape-shifting kitten
Again,
wolf
if she
bear.
felt more capricious and a little Faye-like, and she did her own thing, and she kind of liked that Vanya fucked around, that would have been different. But again, we're trying too hard to make Vanya likable despite being very
Objectively a terrible
un
person.
and doing things within her world which are considered bad. Because I'm not even talking about like I don't like her personality. I'm talking about the fact that she like steals from pawnbrokers. She regularly does things without fully understanding what is happening. She never has to eat shit about over it. But we're told that, oh no, she's a heckin' lovely person. Because you can be a scarred little trauma baby, but that doesn't necessarily mean you are not doing bad things. You might
Mhm.
have a justified place to do it, but that doesn't mean you escape with no consequences. It just means people need to view what you're doing through the specific lens to understand the context. But like, and so that was, there's so much with that. But anyway, end of the book. End of the book. Fake wedding. They do Adelbrecht a heckin' congratulations, you're losing. He turns into a kaiju. Emmerich lets them know that to summon the low court, you have to be a fully ordained
Unelected.
prefect. He is only a half ordained prefect, so it'll kill him to do it. And Vanya's like, not today. I'm gonna trick you into telling me what the summoning thing is, and I'll have your prefect coin because I'm a thief. Um, and I'll say the thing, and he's like, "No, Vanya," and she's like, "This is my self-sacrifice that'll finally get rid of my curse," but she's not thinking about that in the moment because she just does him a heckin' loving. Um, and then they convene the court, and then the court's like, "Wow, um, everything, there are a bajillion witnesses to Adelbrecht turning into a monster and doing all this, but man, you guys don't have any hard proof." And then like a comment about Giselle's horse earlier comes into play now, and a horse head reassembles, speaks in poetry, and was like, "Yes, it was him all along. I witnessed it all with my horse eyes." um and
To be fair, they have the God of truth who will believe what a horse says, but not them saying that they found this evidence. It's a very weird thing where it's like, why would you trust that a horse could even understand what's going on? I mean, like, if horses could talk, they would mostly just want apples. Like, I don't, they wouldn't really have anything interesting to say. They're not
I
that
found a
smart.
moment where you and Lindbergh disagree. Case in point. I love Giselle's horse. Best
Whoa, whoa,
character
whoa! I'm not saying she's a bad character. I'm just saying, why would you believe her as an eyewitness?
versus the other
Like, versus real
eyewitnesses.
people. Yeah, like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yeah, Amalia. Yeah, her sacrifice was also bizarre. Like, can anyone be these crazy ordained investigators? Because Vanya just did it first try. Okay, even worse is that her sacrifice isn't a sacrifice because she's about to die. So she just actually tries to say, she doesn't try to save herself, but this is like the only way it could work is for her to come back to life after she died. So, like, I don't understand why this was the selfless thing that got the crystals to stop growing.
Anyway, Shame does say that in the original fairy tale, the horse is intelligent and can talk, so it's a nod to that. This felt a little too far from the actual Goose Girl fairy tale for me. Um, in some ways, but anyway, yeah. So, and then at
By
the
the
end of it,
way, Miss Ali Snow says the Wrath of Khan brainworm. Yeah, I caught that too. I thought it was so funny. Maria won't get this because she's not a woman of culture and breeding, but go ahead.
I I have not watched enough Star Trek for that to land. Anyway, so congratulations, Adelbrecht has been found guilty by the court of the gods. His punishment: he shall be forever immortalized in a gold statue, being stabbed by this other someone further down in his lineage, like his one of his ancestors, pretending she's stabbing him. But now she looks like she has Vanya slash Giselle's face. Um, Heckin' justice. And then the end of the book is her and Emmerich being like, I love you. But they don't actually say it. They're like, she's like, I want you to chase me and I'm gonna chain you to this
Yeah,
bench.
I couldn't figure out. Again, there's like this weird, like, I want you to chase me. We're gonna play this cat and mouse game all our
Just
lives.
go
But
do
it's
shit
like,
together. You're
what?
literally
Yeah.
together right now. What are we doing? Why are why are you walking away? You don't have to walk away right now. Anyway,
It's really
and that's
funny.
where it ends. I did not dislike this book as much as Will did. I definitely think it has a lot of structural issues. I think a lot of the setup in the beginning does not fully work for where. And oh, the other thing to mention, just in case you didn't know, the wedding is also Vanya's 13th birth or 13th, 17th birthday,
17.
which means her parents, her godmothers, no longer have claim over her. Guess what? She doesn't even have to flee the country anymore. She just had to wait until she was 17, and now she's ownership of herself. And her moms are like, "We love you. You can summon us as your mothers, but you can't summon us as gods, and we can't do any like we can't super impact stuff, but we might help out on occasion when we feel like it."
You know, the thing is, she does not have a relationship with her mothers.
She doesn't.
Like, that scene made me, or you talking about that scene made me realize that, like, that has no impact. The biggest impact it is that she feels relieved that she doesn't have to run or make a choice anymore. But it's not like, I got my mother's back, or even like, no, I want you
Now
guys
they
in
are
my
my
life.
mothers. I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about being a servant like this was. Again, if you had focused the conflict, can we do a rewrite for this one? I'd love to do a rewrite for this one. I
Guys,
really
in the comments, let us know if you would like to do a rewrite. We need to do it faster than the Nettle and Bone one, though, because I'm not even sure I remember most of that book.
I do
But
remember most of it and how I would rewrite it. Lindbergh said, "Guys, I love how they had a wedding by the
that
gallows. They
was so
literally
weird.
did. It was supposed to be a
We had
wedding and then
someone
immediate
murdered.
hanging."
Yeah, what was that?
Adelbrecht is he's metal, guys.
And everyone else
He's
is like, all right, I guess we'll do this. It was
yeah.
so weird.
What's wrong with
He's
this?
like, she will dance for us on the gallows.
When the thieves get hanged, you may kill the bride.
Uh,
Yeah, and Grouder said this book had the audacity to set up all these stakes that go nowhere
go
and mean
nowhere.
nothing. Um,
Uh,
So again, I understand why it is enjoyable, especially there's a lot of things that happen in the last third that are interesting. The pace is decent. There's a little bit in like the middle third that I thought was a little slow. I'd say the first two thirds for me, pace wise, were a bit of a slog to get through. You mentioned earlier that stuff was happening at a decent pace. I did not think so. I was like, we spent too much alone time with Vanya, and before even Ragnar got really great. Oh yeah, but so Aaron Houston mentions, but the chapter before the wedding, wasn't it written to look like everyone abandoned Vanya? Yeah, this movie does the thing that a heist movie does, where it plays a scene that looks like it's going badly, and then it skips back to a scene you saw previously that you took to go one way, and then you're like, recontextualization. This is what actually Ocean's 11 does.
Yeah, but the thing is, it does it after a chapter, so it's
Yeah.
not even like okay, that's another thing we haven't talked about, which is how telly this book is with Vanya's narration. There's a point when her and Emmerson are like, or Emmerich are having like an almost kind of cute like drink or truth like game or something
It
like
was
that. And
kind of cute.
that's the thing, it is. But then she is far too aware of her own trauma and what they are doing there, and she has to tell us about it. It's almost like a newscaster being like, "Oh, and then I got close to the goal line because I realized that, the reason I can't trust him, there's like a frigid ice between us, but if we could crack that ice, it would be something that I could reach out for." And I'm like, "Shut up. God, you're way too aware of what's going on and you're way too navel-gazy about it." And the thing is, again, this is not an inherent problem with first person, but it is leads to a bad habit, I think, which is that characters and the thing is, I don't even like it when Novik does this. Like Novik does it well, but I still think her characters sit around and think too much sometimes. I always remember certain parts in Deadly Education,
Education.
the second one especially, where she's just sitting around and thinking about morality a little bit too much. But the thing is, like Novik's a very talented writer, so she can kind of get away with it. Whereas this book, oh, also this book is making no attempt to even vaguely have atmosphere. At one point, she mentions to Emmerich like, "Oh, we were trying to get extra credit," and I'm like, did she go to college? How does she know about extra
There was
credit? What?
so many modern terms for things, and I should have kept a list. I'm gonna sneeze. Let me mute myself, guys.
Audio listeners, she appeared like she was gonna sneeze, then she raised her elbow to sneeze into her elbow, but it was nothing. She couldn't
It didn't
perform. It
happen.
happens
God
to many
damn it. I
people.
hate when that happens.
Yeah, I do
That
too.
sneeze is gonna live
And then
with
your
me.
nose feels almost like it got punched.
Back to the book. Some people really enjoyed it. I think was it Pris? Who was it that really
Actually,
there
a
was
lot
somebody
of
else.
people seem to have enjoyed it.
Yeah,
It
there was a
was
lot of people who really enjoyed it, and then there was a few, quite a bit that didn't. I would say like I don't know. This book doesn't make me as angry as Will did. There's a lot of lost potential that Ice Willow, that's who enjoyed it. Ice Willow loved it.
Shauna
Um
loved it too.
Shauna loved it. Um and
James loved it.
I get why a lot of people enjoy this book for what it is. There's just for me and the kinds of things I'm interested in that it didn't like again, I wanted more Giselle and her. I wanted more of like the issue with the parent dynamics. I wanted more of that than I wanted romance. I wanted Ragna to actually like learn what it was to be human and to get disappointed in people. And then having for Vanya to actually like earn her trust back. Like I wanted those interactions. But to be fair, I don't think the book wanted to do that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think it didn't care about that relationship, which again is weird because it's the most interesting relationship. I mean, like, even if you were going to, let's say you want to care about romance, that would have been a more interesting romance to, in like, if you really wanted to go the romantic route in terms of for whatever reason people feel like that's the most important relationship a book has, make it a romance then between her
Yep.
and Giselle. Like, that would have been more
That could have
interesting.
done it. You
Yeah.
literally could have done all of the things I just talked about and just made it a romance between her and Giselle.
Shelby says, I wanted I wanted everyday life with death and fortune.
Yes.
Fascinating. Very
Mhm.
interesting. Very cool. Not there. Um, the author found some more YA romance tropes she hadn't hit yet.
Oh, because somebody said, "I have no clue how, there is a sequel to this book," and that was the author
There's a
found some
sequel?
other Wait, there's a sequel?
Hold on. I gotta look this
Guys,
up then.
there's a sequel?
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Maybe she
This
meant like
this
another book
book
by
was supposed to be a standalone. It was likely the publisher that demanded more. That makes sense.
I trust
That
nothing
makes
from this
sense.
author. What is it called? Little boring? Little annoying?
A little boring.
Let's get one thing
Painted
straight.
Devils.
Vanja Smith wasn't trying to start a cult. God, I don't. Anyway, there's three. What? You guys, like, what are these bombshells you're dropping on us?
At the end, what are they going to be about? Because here's the thing: as much as I this book wasn't necessarily for me, it worked as its own beginning,
Yeah,
end. It
no.
wrapped up. There are no loose ends.
It's very self-contained.
Yeah, what? That is bizarre. Cause like I respect a book that is willing to be like, I'm a standalone. And now if it is the publishers pushing her to do that, I'm very sorry, ma'am. That is not I think you told Vanya and Amric have a shitty kid. I think you told the story you were here to tell, and I think they should have let you just do that. Is it the story I would have told? No, but I think that's the thing is I think this author just genuinely told the story she wanted to tell, and she added in some elements that worked for her in this retelling, and that's fine.
I don't know. I usually respect when authors write what they wanna write, like, but I have more respect for Ice Planet Barbarians than I do for this book, in that that book is so clearly just what the author wanted to write, whereas this one is trying to actually be, like, a good book.
Wait, apparently the second book, Vanya becomes a cult leader?
That's what I just read.
Oh, I thought you were just being a shit.
No, that's the on there as the yeah, that's really funny.
I thought you
It
were just
does
being a
sound like something I
smartass.
that's
Yeah.
what wondering Shadow Schmidt wasn't trying to murder 5 people. Yeah, it does sound like it's something I would have said, but no, yeah. Oh, so more people worshiping Vanya. Thanks, I hate it
But
so
wait,
much.
Vanya isn't like a social person. Like she's not good with people. It takes you a minute to warm. Why would do you know what cult leaders have in common, guys? They're fucking
Yeah.
charismatic.
Oh my god.
Oh, Shame said no, they don't worship her. It's
Oh,
something else.
okay.
Okay, good, good,
Okay,
good, good.
alright.
I will take that. I will take that.
Ruby
Okay.
cheeks. Alright, yeah, we gotta finish up. Yeah, did you guys in the comments like this book? Join us next time for, live streams. These are always a lot of fun. Our last
Oh,
one was
one thing
really
I should
hilarious.
say is I didn't think actual prose of this book. I hated when it got very like obviously her talking to the camera, but a lot of the imagery and like the basic prose I thought was like really decent and in some scenes pretty evocative. Um I just hated the first person. I think if it had been third person, it would have worked so much better. I think honestly, this writer's writing, when she had scenes that felt like they were third person, worked better than when they were
Yeah.
first person. That opening scene when it's Fortune and Death meeting at the crossroads and that lady coming, and I thought this book was third person. This book teased me. It started and I thought it was third person, and then she was like, and that's how I met Fortune and Death. And I was like, God
Oh, god damn
damn
it.
it.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That's very true because those portions are nice, the more mythical fairy tale way she writes at the beginning of certain parts.
I would have loved that. I would have loved it.
Alright. We love you, our parasocial darlings. Bye.